Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a topic that is absolutely crucial for anyone who has navigated the investment-based immigration journey. We're diving deep into the realities of denaturalization, specifically tailored for EB-5 investors who've built a permanent life, invested their capital, and really put down roots here in the United States. So let's just jump right in with a question that most of us assume we already know the answer to. Is your U.S. citizenship truly permanent? I mean, once you take that oath, is it just a done deal forever? Well, the legal reality might actually surprise you. Denaturalization risks are very real for any naturalized U.S. citizen. And yes, that includes our EB-5 investors. If the government discovers that citizenship was obtained through fraud, maybe a hidden criminal history, or even a basic ineligibility right at the time of naturalization, they can act. Now, it's a rare event, but when it happens, the consequences are literally life-altering. And to put this into perspective, the sheer volume of activity right now is pretty staggering. In 2026, the Justice Department is reportedly receiving between 100 to 200 referred cases every single month for potential denaturalization action. That is a highly meaningful volume. It represents a much broader active push by the government to revisit older files rather than just screening the new applicants coming in. This shift matters deeply for anyone who's built a life in the U.S. through investment. To help you navigate this, our explainer today is broken down into 5 key areas. First, 2026 enforcement trends. Second, how denaturalization works. Third, the main risk triggers. Fourth, post-naturalization danger zones. And fifth, protecting your U.S. citizenship. Let's kick things off with Section 1, 2026 enforcement trends, a meaningful shift. So enforcement has shifted noticeably this year. A recent Civil Division memo just laid out the government's top priority targets. We're talking national security threats, undisclosed felonies, large-scale financial fraud, think massive Medicaid or Medicare schemes, and citizenship obtained through corruption. But you know what the most vital takeaway is here? They are actively revisiting older files. They're literally looking backward. That means your past paperwork is just as important today as the very day you filed it. And here is the real kicker. There is absolutely no statute of limitations on civil denaturalization cases. None. A case can be filed decades after you became a citizen. This is a massive difference from criminal law, where strict time limits usually apply, right? And honestly, this is a big part of why this topic keeps coming up in EB-5 circles, even among investors who successfully naturalized many, many years ago. All right, moving right along to Section 2, how denaturalization actually works. Fact versus fiction. You know, a lot of folks worry that some random clerk at an agency can just stamp a form and poof, revoke their passport. No way. That is simply not true. Citizenship isn't stripped arbitrarily through some quick administrative review by DHS or USCIS. It requires a rigorous judicial process. Ultimately, only a federal district judge can order denaturalization, and that's only after a formal federal lawsuit or a criminal charge is brought forward. Until that judge signs a final order, you remain a U.S. citizen in every legal sense of the word. Okay, now that we understand the process, let's look at Section 3, the main risk triggers, what the government looks for. There are 3 main grounds that account for most of these cases, and they apply directly to EB-5 investors. First up is fraud or material misrepresentation. This is for sure the most common one. If someone lied or misled an officer at literally any point, from your initial I-526 petition to the green card application all the way to your N-400, that can be grounds for revocation. Second is the concealment of serious criminal history committed before naturalization, especially heavy stuff like human rights abuses or organized crime. And third is something called illegal procurement. Let's unpack that last one because it's a bit tricky. Illegal procurement is essentially a legal catch-all. It's used for cases where a person simply wasn't eligible for citizenship at the exact moment it was granted, even if they didn't tell an outright lie. Sometimes this eligibility gap only becomes crystal clear years after the fact, when an agency starts digging through those old records. Honestly, this highlights exactly why consulting with experienced EB-5 attorneys from day one is so essential to ensure your filings are perfectly airtight. Let's shift gears to Section 4, post-naturalization danger zones, the statutory tripwires. You might think you're totally in the clear once the oath is done, but beyond your initial paperwork, the law carves out specific windows of vulnerability that catch a lot of people off guard. For example, if you join an extremist or subversive organization within 5 years of naturalizing, you risk losing your citizenship. Why? Because the law treats that as evidence you weren't genuinely attached to the Constitution during your oath. Furthermore, there's a 10-year window where if you are called before Congress to testify about subversive activity and you refuse, resulting in a contempt finding, well, denaturalization can follow. There are also narrow rules regarding a dishonorable discharge for those who naturalized through the military. So, naturally, this leads to a question we hear all the time from concerned investors, and rightfully so. What happens to my family and my assets if this worst-case scenario actually occurs? The ripple effects here can be pretty profound. Now, while your businesses and real property are generally not automatically seized by the government, the immigration status of your family becomes highly vulnerable. If a parent loses their citizenship, children who obtain derivative citizenship through that parent can lose their status entirely. They might revert to lawful permanent resident status, sure, but if the original green card was obtained through fraud, removal proceedings could absolutely follow. It's a stark reminder that this isn't just about one person, it's about the security of the whole family. Okay, let's take a breath and move to our final section, Section 5, Protecting Your U.S. Citizenship, the Legal Shield. I definitely want to reassure you that the legal bar to strip a citizen of their status is incredibly high. Courts require the government to prove its case by clear, convincing, and unequivocal evidence. This standard is intentionally designed to leave essentially zero room for doubt. So what does this actually mean for you? It means minor biographical mistakes, an innocent oversight on a form, or, say, a routine IRS audit over a late tax return. Those do not meet this threshold. The law is designed to protect honest investors, not punish them for simple typos. But listen, because EB-5 investors carry a heavier documentation burden than most due to that complex source of funds paperwork, you absolutely must be proactive. The best defense? Absolute consistency. You want to keep every single filing perfectly aligned from your initial I-526 petition all the way to your N-400. Discrepancies draw scrutiny. It's that simple. Second, if you realize something was left out of your background, address it proactively through voluntary disclosure with your lawyer. Handled correctly, voluntary disclosure is treated very differently than a cover-up discovered later. And third, stay completely current on shifting EB-5 laws and regulations, like the updates in the Reform and Integrity Act. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather provocative question to reflect on. Are your original immigration files as perfectly in order today as the day you filed them? Because safeguarding your permanent life, your investments, and your family's future in the U.S. doesn't end with a ceremony. It begins with maintaining impeccable, long-term compliance. Take a look at your records, talk to your advisors, and make sure your American dream is built on an unbreakable foundation. Thanks so much for joining me today.